Welcome, friend. Welcome to the Quiet Alchemy Space. I'm so glad you're here. I'm glad you found this space. I am going to share kind of the origin of the space, kind of the origin story, but I want you to know that this is a space for you if you're a wife, a mom, professional, all of the above, some of the above. This is a space for you to pause in whatever you have going on and engage with yourself. There are times in our lives, and I'll talk about my own experience in a little bit, where, sometimes in our late adolescence and our 20s, we're just starting our careers if we decide on that path, we're starting our families. We have a lot of responsibilities where we're trying to prove ourselves to other people a lot of the times. And then later in life, the next 20 years sometimes, we get more invested in our careers. There's more and more responsibilities, and we just have less time for ourselves. So we kind of lose touch a little bit. And then if you're like me and you're in this space where you're in the midlife part of adulthood, you kind of have a little bit more space, I'm hoping. And maybe if you have kids, they're older. Some of the responsibilities that you had at work, maybe you're just really efficient. And sometimes that kind of provides a little bit of a space to think, oh, maybe retirement's coming up, or I'm getting older. It gives you some pause and you recognize, as I did, I don't really know what I like. I'm not really sure what I want. It kind of puts us in a space of going back to our 20s again, of thinking about this next stage. So this is a channel where I'm going to share a process that I've developed that integrates some sketching loosely. It's for you even if you don't prefer to draw, because honestly, full disclosure, that's me too. But we're going to try some simple techniques that's going to help you move past that, and then possibly something that allows you not to draw at all. And then stitching, it is part of this process. I think that you could watch this video and the series of videos and decide if stitching is for you. If not, you could do something like watercolor. The idea is just to engage in something that's creative and provide some space for deeper thinking. And then finally, we're going to get to the journaling part, where we've sat, we've kind of created some ideas in our minds, and now let's actually journal about it and look into it with a simple analysis technique that I'm going to share with you. Why this process? Well, as I've alluded to, I'm in the middle-aged stage of life, and this origin really goes back probably longer. I found myself lost in the daily care of 3 kids who are now teenagers, being a wife, having a, decent, nice size house, but enough space where it took a lot of time, personal time, to manage and maintain. And I was a professional too. I have always been an educator, but there was a time when I was a principal, and being an introvert, that position challenged me. And I got to a space where I recognized that I was burned out. I really had too little time for myself. So the break for me, actually, and I laugh about it every time because it wasn't a break, but I did leave my job and I went on to get my doctorate. It was a long-term goal that I had, and I was getting to the place where I wasn't quite sure that was ever going to happen. I had the opportunity to be an adjunct for a while, kind of split my role in the evenings, and loved it and decided that was the next path for me. So that's important because it's part of the origin story of this channel and this process. It's a really important part of this process because it was in working part-time and engaging in literature that really interested me at a time when I didn't have time for that. It was really opening and exhilarating, even though the work was stressful and hard, and it's a challenging process on all sorts of levels. But I made it through largely because I had some of the practices that I'm going to share. The sketching, taking photos, actually, some sort of visual representation of something. And during this time, it was during the time of COVID, when we were sequestered at home, like many others, I went back to some of the crafts and some of the things that I enjoyed because now I had time, and I was drawn back into hand sewing. And my daughters and I really got into that. But the part that I really loved about that was there were communities. There was community around sewing. And I had never, I mean, I had my grandma taught me how, my mom. Um, I guess I had some friends who might have liked to sew, but I didn't ever see sewing as a part of community. I thought it was just something I liked. And honestly, in my friend group and my work group, everybody thought, oh, great, that's something that you can make. That's cool that you can make that. But it wasn't anything that was, I don't know, people just didn't understand. And so when I found community, the sewing communities, I found parts of myself that were forgotten. And that time alone in the sanctuary that you see behind me in my chair was, I don't know, it sounds silly, but maybe a rebirthing in a way, because I wasn't the same as I was in my past. I was definitely new and I was evolving, but it was kind of a reconnection to some parts of me that I had forgotten in the busyness of life. So I want to share this process with you over the next series of videos. Please comment and let me know what you like. This is an evolution. This is a process. So if you're watching this video, it's because it's the first one and I haven't created a new one that's more polished. This is really just me. It's how I talk and this is how I am. We will do some projects. This is the sewing part is not necessarily going to be a how-to. I can share ways that you can use your sewing time to make things if you choose to. The sewing practice in and of itself is enough, but sometimes I know it feels hard to have materials and use them and then think, well, now what do I do with it? It's kind of one of the reasons why I make some of my sketchbooks kind of too precious and I don't want to write in them, but we'll work through it. We'll work through it together. And the powerful piece is I did my dissertation with a lot of this methodology, and you don't have to be in that professional world. That's just part of the origin story. But the analysis piece, I've always been a journaler, but when I started journaling, and then of course I did interviews and going back and looking through and learning about the whole coding process, it was really powerful. We're telling ourselves all sorts of things in our journals that if we don't pick them back up and look through them, or if we don't pause after we write them and kind of reflect on some of the things, we're missing stuff. We're telling ourselves things that are really helpful and can move us forward or help us find what's blocking us. So I think that this journey, this whole process that I'm going to unfold over time will be amazing. I also have an Instagram account with the same name, Quiet Alchemy Space. It's not going to have as much detail as the videos, but I'm going to share some of the quotes, photos of the process that I won't necessarily have in the video, so it'll work in tandem with it. Again, thanks for finding this and making it to the end of this first video. I look forward to getting to know you, to learn more about you, and helping you learn more about yourself. That's the important piece. And it's going to be a journey we'll take together and learn from each other.